Hello friends, my name is Eric Cloward and welcome to the Stoic Coffee Break. The Stoic Coffee Break is a weekly podcast where I take an aspect of Stoicism and I do my best to break it down to its most usable elements and talk about how I do my best to try and apply this in my life. I go through some of my successes and share with you some of my failures and hope that you can learn something from this, all within the space of a coffee break. Today's episode is called Do What You Can. When you find yourself in a challenging situation, how much time do you spend wishing that things were different than they are? Do you get stuck in thinking how it's not fair? Well, what if instead of wanting things to be other than they are, decided to focus on what you could do? How much time and frustration would you save yourself? So today I want to talk about how taking action, even if it's just a small one, can help you get on the path of moving through your challenges a lot quicker. Theodore Roosevelt said, "Do what you can with what you have where you are." So one of my favorite movies of all times is The Bourne Identity with Matt Damon. And one of the things that I love about the Bourne movies is how Jason Bourne is always looking for what he can do. While his character has all kinds of training that most of us will never go through, what makes Bourne so good at surviving is his ability to improvise. He's trained his mind to approach any situation with an eye for figuring out what he can do with what he has. And whether that's using something nearby to cause a distraction so that he can achieve his objective, or simply stopping to blend into a crowd to evade somebody who's after him, it's his ability to see and accept things for what they are and not wish that they were otherwise, and to be able to act upon those things that keeps him alive. Doing what you can with what you have can apply in a lot of different situations. For example, professional poker players understand that you will never have a great hand every single time, but you do your best to play the hand that you're dealt. Because if you only wait until you have the best hand, you'd probably run out of chips before you'd even got to play that hand anyway. But to be a good player, you have to have all kinds of other skills on top of the cards that you're dealt. You need an understanding of probabilities, of how to read other players, an ability to create misdirection. In a sense, you don't just play your cards. You play the situation, you play the place you're playing in, and you play the other players. Marcus Aurelius said, "Accept whatever comes to you, woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs?" So, I've been shaving my head for years, and while I miss my hair, mostly for the warmth, I found that instead of feeling bad about not having the thick blonde hair I had growing up, I've assembled quite a nice collection of hats that can be worn in every situation. When I go to a blacklight party, I have my partner or one of my artist friends draw with blacklight reactive ink on my head. And the reactions I get from the brilliant glowing designs is one of the best parts of my night. So I decided long ago that I would simply embrace what nature gave me, which was a nice shiny head, and appreciate all the perks that come along with not having to buy myself shampoo for the last 20 years. Another good example of making do with what you have. I have a friend who lost a leg in a car accident a number of years ago, but she hasn't let that slow her down at all. She's always out camping and hiking and doing all kinds of things with her friends. When she shows up to a fun party or a festival, she'll oftentimes have her prosthetic leg that is decked out in LEDs. And she could complain about this, but she recognized that long ago that it was simply a waste of time because it wasn't going to ever bring her leg back. Now, when it comes to working with things that are a little less physical, it can be a little bit murkier and a little more difficult. Maybe you have a temper, or you struggle with depression, or you have a hard time keeping yourself organized. And rather than trying to get rid of those aspects of yourself or beating yourself up over them, why not learn to just accept it and figure out how to work with it or work around it? If we can look at these things and accept them more like how we view physical challenges, and if we can accept these things just as they are and not judge them as either good or bad, but just, again, things that are, then I think we can make a lot more progress in a shorter amount of time. And I think one of the biggest areas we can see this is perfectionism. Because oftentimes we feel like something has to be perfect, that we can't see the beauty of it in being less perfect. And as a side note, I think perfection in most cases is not something that can actually be defined or achieved anyway. But I think we expect far too much of ourselves and expect that we should be able to do it all. We expect that we should be able to have the perfect body, that we never lose our temper, that we never miss an appointment, or that we always say the right thing. But the thing is, we can't. We can never always be on. So rather than punish ourselves for not being able to do all of the things that we think we should and do them the way that we think we should, what if we just figured out the best way to work around it? It all comes down to figuring out the things that you can do something about and working with those things. Because if you spend your energy focused on the things you can't control, again, you're going to waste a lot of time and you're not going to make much progress. For example, if you have a hard time keeping organized, can you come up with some strategies that can help you stay more focused and on track? Maybe it's something as simple as setting a timer to go off every hour to remind you to check your to-do list to be sure that you're on track and not surfing the internet. Or, if you're honest with yourself, maybe it's bad enough that you just need to hire someone else to keep track of your time and help keep you organized. So what can we do to improve our ability to take action in a situation rather than getting stuck in wishing for things to be different? When you're stuck in a situation, stop and think about what can you do. If you hear the words, "I wish," come out of your mouth, stop for a moment and think about why you wish something were different. Usually a wish is something that you want changed that you don't really have much control over or you don't want to put much effort in. Then take a break and then start your next sentence with, "I can," and list off 3 things that you can actually do in that situation. Even if they're just really, really small things, just putting down a few small things that you can do to take action gets the creative juices flowing about what things you have control over and actions that you can actually take. Now, this is something, unfortunately, that I'm not great at. But when I do it, it does make a difference in helping me to focus on what I really can do in a situation. And whether that's dealing with a difficult situation in a relationship or a problem at work, or really any challenge that I have, if we can ask ourselves 3 things that we can do, we can start to control the things that we actually have control over. So as an example, I decided to think about what I can do when I'm frustrated with someone at work, which happens from time to time. So what are 3 things that I can do in that situation? Well, I can take 3 breaths before I say anything. I can type a note and get all my frustrations out of my head rather than have them rattling around and getting more and more pissed off about the situation. And if we're in a conversation, I can table the conversation to a later time when I can approach it more clear-headed. Now, I know those are not Jason Bourne moves, but thankfully I'm not a former international agent running for my life. Trying to think creatively when we're stressed out or challenged is not easy, but it's a fact of life. When we can stop wishing that things were different and just look at a situation and ask, "What can I do?" the more likely we are to make some headway and help get ourselves unstuck. And that's the Stoic Coffee Break for this week. Be good to yourselves, be good to others, and thanks for listening.